like we're in the same place.
Right, I know, right? So we're apart but together. I love it. You're actually in Canada, right?
I am. Yeah, I'm about an
Okay.
hour from Toronto.
Okay, awesome. And then just introduce yourself. Laura, tell everyone about you, what you do, whatever accolades and certifications you want to share, just whatever you want people to know.
Awesome. So my name is Laura Sinclair. As Jeriel so nicely mentioned, I am a pre and post specialist. So I really specialize in women that are dealing with symptoms postpartum. So I work with pregnant women, but my specialty is really with postpartum women that may be dealing with like diastasis recti or pelvic organ prolapse or incontinence, whatever it may be. And I really work to educate women on how to keep themselves safe in
Mm,
fitness prenatal period, but also how to heal postpartum. So I like to think of myself as a corrective exercise specialist in that way.
nice.
I also own a brick and mortar gym in the Canadian town in which I live. Uh,
Nice. Yeah.
so I work with women in the community, but I also work online as well. Um, and that all sort of stemmed from my own personal experience. So I'd never really thought that I was going to get into pre and postnatal fitness. But I was an athlete my whole life, and then I had my daughter and realized how much of a gap there was for women in fitness. So I really try to fill that gap.
Yeah, I know that you want to kind of like talk about the postnatal part a little bit, but could we start with just prenatally? Because I know people have so many questions about like what's acceptable exercises to do when you're pregnant, how not to like overexert yourself or exercise too hard. Some people even discourage pregnant women from exercising at all and kind of shame them from exercising. So could you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm actually pregnant right now. I'm 20 weeks pregnant. So I'm like, think
Congratulations.
I'm like
Yeah.
totally in that window right now. And
Yeah.
unless there is a true contraindication to exercise in that like your doctor said you can't exercise for, XYZ reason. Exercising during pregnancy is so important for so many reasons. Many studies that have been done that say why that is. But the biggest thing during pregnancy that you want to watch out for is obviously your mindset needs to change. You're not trying to like
Yeah.
work out you or push yourself really, really hard. Um,
Yeah.
you're just training for the enjoyment and for overall health and wellness. It's not, if you're an athlete, it's not to improve in your sport. But there are sort of
Mhm.
that you want to watch out for when you're exercising during
Yeah.
pregnancy to make sure that what you're doing is safe or
Yeah.
not going to potentially cause more harm or more complication when you're postpartum. And those
Yeah.
are anything that actually makes you pee, leak, is something that you'd want to avoid. Anything that has you popping, and I know we're going to talk about diastasis a little bit, but
Yeah.
if you're seeing like a doming in your belly, it looks like it's coming to like a cone shape, something like
Oh,
that.
okay.
Avoid anything that causes you pain, just in general. So certainly a lot of pregnant women pelvic pain. You may experience some abdominal pain, some round ligament pain. So any exercise that's going to cause you pain there. And the other one is
Mhm.
so if there's anything that causes you to feel pressure in your vagina and your pelvic floor, that's
Okay.
another that we'd want to avoid. So I call them the 4 Ps. So peeing, popping, pain, pressure. Um,
Love it.
but generally, the big thing is just managing your intensity, not lifting
Mhm.
a weightlifter, not going super heavy because you don't need to. So a
Yeah.
lot of mindset, and there are some other modifications that you'll do based on those 4 things.
Yeah. And would you say that exercise while you're pregnant does help with like stamina and endurance when you go through like your labor and delivery period as well?
It can. I mean, the biggest
Yeah.
thing for exercising during pregnancy to assist with labor would
Hmm.
be around learning how to relax and contract your pelvic floor. So,
Okay.
obviously, there's a lot that happens that our bodies just do on their own when we're
Yeah.
in the delivery period. But certainly, lots of people correlate or relate being in labor to being the hardest exercise, the hardest workout they've ever done. Um,
Yeah.
but learning how to actually your pelvic floor as part of that prenatal exercise can actually go a really long way to help making it easier.
Yeah, and Matthew was saying, does exercise make labor any easier? Yeah, so we're basically like on the same page. Exercise can, right, contribute to better overall like feelings
Yeah,
during labor. Yeah.
there's so many things that are out of your control, really, when it comes to labor as well. So,
Yeah.
yes, for sure, it can help make your recovery easier. You may not feel so labored, or I can't think of a better word, but more tired. But there's a lot of
Right.
things that are out of our control during labor. But exercise can
Yeah.
certainly help you to control the things that you can.
Yeah, for sure. And if people want to know more about like your pelvic floor and what you can do for pelvic floor health, we actually do have an episode on our podcast called Just Do Your Kegels, and it's available on Apple and also Podcast Addict, where we talk to a pelvic floor therapist, and it goes much deeper into where is the pelvic floor, how to avoid like urinary incontinence or bladder leaks and other things like that, and how to strengthen your pelvic floor in postpartum. So if people want to know more about that, they can definitely go there. And then you mentioned diastasis recti. So can you go into more detail as to like what that is, since we mentioned it, what causes it, what may be some of the symptoms and things like that?
Sure. So diastasis recti or diastasis recti it can be pronounced in a lot of
However you pronounce it. Yeah.
uh, it is something that 99.9% of women will experience as a result of pregnancy.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
know that.
yeah, the stat is, I think the stat is actually 100% of women over that reach 35 weeks of pregnancy will have some form of diastasis. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, it's something that has got a bit of a, we'll call it a bad rep.
Yeah.
A lot of fear around diastasis, and there's a lot of people that will sell or how to avoid diastasis. It's not something you can avoid. Essentially, what it is if you think about your six pack, the
Yeah.
line below your six pack muscles is called the linea alba, and if you think of it like half,
Mhm.
sort of stretches as the belly expands because the body has to make room for the baby. So
Yeah.
every woman will experience that stretching. It's just sort
Yeah.
of a natural part of life. There's a little bit of a misnomer that it's a tearing or a ripping of this linea
Mhm.
alba. It's not a tearing. And so postpartum, can take some time for those six pack muscles to close back up, for it to return. And for some, it happens on its own. But for other women, it can take time and require some corrective exercise to get to a place where that linea alba is responding the way that it should. So a diastasis recti refers to the gap that is created by the stretch in the linea alba between those six packs trapping.
Yeah.
In
Eh,
terms of symptoms, you would ask that.
yeah.
A lot of women would experience a sore back as a result of diastasis.
Okay.
It's generally considered to be like a weak core. My least favorite term, but I'm going to say it because you will know what I'm talking about, but that sort of tummy, very soft, sort of looking like maybe you're 6 months pregnant, even though you're maybe 6 months postpartum.
Mm-hmm.
Sign of a diastasis, but also component we talked about in pregnancy, seeing that during exercise, for example, would be another symptom of diastasis.
Laura, repeat that last part. You went out a little bit. What was the
Oh,
last part you said?
so the last part was exercise. You can see a diastasis sometimes present as that combing or doming. So
Oh,
even
okay.
if we're going to sit up, because we use our core abs to go from lying down to sitting up, you may
Mhm.
really dome through that diastasis as well.
Okay. And then what happens if you don't do anything to correct it?
So if you don't do anything to correct it, it will pretty much just stay as it is, unless you are
Okay.
one of the lucky ones who has it close on their own. Some women do. Some women, they don't have much of a diastasis and their abs, am I back? There we go. Just heal on
There you go. Yeah.
its own. Sorry about that. So
It's
for some women, it'll heal on its own. But for a lot of women, they do need a little bit of extra help.
okay. And can you talk a little bit about like why it's important for those muscles to come back together, or why it's important for your overall health in your body?
Yeah. So really, if you think about our core, right? We think often when we talk about our core, we're thinking about our abs, right? But our
Yeah.
core is really a system. So it's our pelvic floor, it's our diaphragm, it's our transverse abdominis, which are those muscles at the front, and then a braided muscle at the back called the multifidus. We need all of those things to work together. And if we don't have a healed diastasis, oftentimes, if our abdomen is not where it's supposed to be,
Hmm.
oftentimes we may have trouble with our pelvic floor function as well.
Okay.
A lot of women that don't heal it, there are some aesthetic concerns for some women that don't heal a diastasis, but certainly a weak back, sore back would be another big one.
Okay. Okay. And then anything else that you want to add about diastasis or about prenatal exercise?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that you can do in the prenatal stage to be sure that you're not creating more pressure on your linea alba
Okay.
than so things like sit-ups and planks would not be appropriate for a pregnant woman because that's what's going to create additional pressure on the abdomen.
Okay.
But really, it's not something to be afraid of. It's really something that you should educate yourself on if you're intending to exercise while pregnant. But every
Hmm.
woman experiences it, and if you do have it, there's help to be found. It's not
Okay.
feel every woman has it, and for the most part, it can be healed just through a corrective exercise.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as far as anything else for prenatal exercise, is there anything else that women should be aware of or check or speak to their doctor about or some other healthcare professional?
Yeah, I mean, a pelvic floor physiotherapist, I believe we call them physiotherapists here in Canada. I believe in the States you refer to them as a physical therapist. But
Yeah.
absolutely seeing a pelvic floor physiotherapist or physical therapist during your pregnancy is something I
Hmm.
recommend.
Okay. And Matthew was saying, how long does it typically take to heal from diastasis?
So there's really no timeline, Matthew. It really depends on the woman. It depends on the response of the core. I like to sort of say there's really no timeline for anything postpartum. What
Mm,
your experience would be different than mine. So, we often see these charts that are like, you can start to run after 6 months postpartum. Well, maybe you can't. So
yeah.
it's very gray. It's a very gray area. I've seen people, be able to heal it, have a fully healed diastasis in 6 months. It took me 18 months. So everybody's different.
Mm,
It just takes it just takes work like anything.
yeah. What's the marker of a healed diastasis? Like, how do you know it's been healed?
Good question. So a diastasis is usually measured by fingers. So
Oh, okay.
you can actually stick in between the abdomen. Usually they say anything under 1.5 fingers is considered a functional diastasis, but it's
Okay.
sort of less about the gap and more about how responsive it is. So for someone that had a really bad diastasis, I may be able to stick my fingers like all the way up to this knuckle. That would be
Mhm.
not good. But if I could only stick in like to my first knuckle, then that would be good. So
Okay.
depth is important, and so is width.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good to know. Do you have resources and more information about diastasis recti, about testing to see how bad, or I guess not bad, about the extent of the separation, and then also about corrective exercises?
Yeah, so I do have a few currently on my Instagram profile, so you can always follow me. I'm actually going to be sharing sort of a free self checking guide in the
Okay.
next couple of weeks. So when I do share that, I will make sure that I let you know, Ariel, so that we can share
Okay.
there.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. I would really, really appreciate that. Okay, so I feel like we spent a lot of time on diastasis, Rexy. Do you think that we can move on and talk about like postnatal and other things that you can do now that we kind of talked about prenatal and gave that full coverage?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So then let's talk about postpartum. So you just had a baby 3 to 6 weeks ago. When should you really start like thinking about exercising again and like how strenuous you want that exercise to be after you just had the baby in the fourth trimester?
Yeah, so that fourth trimester, that first 6 weeks before you're cleared for exercise,
Yeah,
really what you want to be working on is not necessarily exercise in the way that you would think about like exercise and going to the gym, but
yeah.
learning how to re-engage your core and pelvic floor connection. So
Mm,
when we breathe in, okay, take a deep breath in, your pelvic floor should descend, your diaphragm should descend, and your belly would relax. When we breathe out, the opposite happens. Diaphragm comes up, pelvic floor comes up, and core should contract. However, postpartum, that often doesn't happen. So
okay,
because we're stretched and everything's happened. So really
great.
those 3 to 6 weeks is about relearning how to connect your pelvic floor and your core, and
Okay.
that's breath. So it's usually through relatively, supine, so on your back exercises, sometimes picking up one leg at a time, very
Okay.
simple, basic movement, really working that breath. But other than that, really just taking that time. I really encourage women not to rush postpartum. There is no rush. Take the time to build the foundation of healing your core and pelvic floor, rebuilding that connection. And then when it's time to get back into exercise, when you're healed, you can get clearance, you can do it slowly. A lot of women go
Okay.
from zero to nothing, from nothing to straight into hardcore exercise and sort of skip
Yeah.
some preliminary steps. So for me,
Right.
around 3 to 6 weeks, it's really about that core and pelvic floor connection and rebuilding that.
Okay. And then with core and pelvic floor connection, what's the next step after that?
So after that, it's going to be what I would consider to be like non-explosive exercise. So you don't want to go like right into running. You want to make sure that you're rebuilding some of those strengths. Oftentimes for a lot of women, they lose a lot of their glute strength. So rebuilding your glutes, spending a little time on your triceps. Most new moms overuse their biceps from holding babies like this. And kind of like
Absolutely. Yeah.
spending a little bit of time on some of those areas of your body that maybe are feeling a little bit more sore, or also just sort of opposite to what you're doing every day. Being a new mom is it's pretty strenuous, actually.
I absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of it is just, those 4 Ps that we talked about at the beginning for prenatal are also relevant postpartum.
Oh, okay. That's good
Mhm.
to know.
Yeah, so making sure that nothing's causing us pressure or pain or peeing or popping of the abdomen.
Okay.
But it really depends on what you want to do. If you're the person that wants to do a boot camp style class, it's learning how to modify those styles of classes for you. Or if you do videos at home, it's sort of understanding where you're at with your body. And that's where working with
Mhm.
a coach and a pelvic floor physiotherapist really helps, because everybody's different. Everybody's postpartum experience is different. And
Yeah.
I really believe in these like black and whites, you can do this and one person can do this or you shouldn't do that, because it's not
Mhm.
the everybody. It really is a range.
Yeah.
And so once you sort of have that connection, it's about playing around with the things that you want to do and getting that feedback. So if I try something and it's making me pee or causing me pain, I know I have to pull back. How do I
Yeah.
rebuild that thing that I couldn't do before? If that makes sense.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So dispel this myth, the postpartum snapback, is that really a thing or is
No,
it a fantasy?
it's not a thing. If you have that postpartum snapback, you are won the genetic lottery. Congratulations. Because that's
Okay.
not like, no. It's funny. So I own a gym, right? And
Yeah.
everybody, oh, Laura, you're gonna just bounce right back. This is my like
Mhm.
trainers that sell the bouncing back thing, just make my
Yeah.
top off. But no, it is not. You have to
Okay.
really honor your body, right? If you think about how much
Yeah.
I'm 20 weeks into my pregnancy right now, I'm tired. It's 40.
Hmm.
It takes a long time for your body to grow that tiny little human, let alone
Yeah.
and push it out of your body. Um, but you have a hole as like the size of your placenta in your body postpartum, and really honoring what it is that you've done, because mentally it takes a
Yeah.
huge toll. Physically it does as well. And oftentimes our minds may think we're ready and our bodies just aren't.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I think women put so much pressure on themselves to bounce right
Yeah.
back with their baby. I see it all the time. And I
Hmm.
just that it would stop. But
Yeah.
uh,
Me
if it doesn't
too.
happen to you, that's normal. That's the norm.
Yeah.
This bouncing right back thing is not the norm. That is very rare, and those are some golden genetics that I don't have.
Okay, so I just wanted to release everybody from the pressure of the postpartum snapback because I feel
Like
like it is so much pressure to breastfeed or exercise in order to get back to pre-baby weight, and I just want people to know that that's not necessarily the goal. If it's your personal goal, that's absolutely fantastic, but it's a lot of pressure, and if that's not what's happening, then that's actually normal.
totally, we need to free
Yeah.
ourselves, each other. If from that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so other things about exercising postpartum, like do you suggest like people also do something as far as like what they're eating and what they're drinking in order to go along with the exercise and heal within the postpartum period?
Totally. Most new moms
Okay.
don't eat enough. And some of it is giving ourselves permission to eat how much food we actually need, especially if we're
Yeah.
breastfeeding. There's a bit of this notion that, oh, like the weight will just fall right off if I breastfeed. But if you're not eating
Mhm.
enough to produce milk, your body will not shed body fat. Our
Okay.
body's really good at protecting where they're at. And if we don't
Yeah.
feel properly, that makes it really, really difficult. But certainly, eating a balanced diet. Most new moms and women in general don't get enough protein. So I like, as
Mhm.
my guides, I like to encourage protein at every meal, vegetables
Okay.
at every meal, and drinking a lot of water. So about half an ounce to 1 ounce of water per pound of body weight. So it's a lot of water.
Wow.
Uh, but that's generally what I encourage.
Okay. And then as far as other things to do in the postpartum period for fitness and for nutrition, do you have any other like rules of thumb or suggestion or expert advice?
Yeah, I think the biggest one, I said pelvic floor physiotherapist for prenatal,
Yeah.
absolutely floor physiotherapist, postnatal as well. And if you can find a coach to help you bridge what you're learning when you're in physical therapy and what it is that you actually want to do, if that's your sport or if it's CrossFit or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
there can be a little bit of a gap because what happens in physical therapy is often very medical in nature and
Yeah.
be a little bit boring, admittedly.
Right.
Sorry, pelvic floor physical therapist. I love you. But often women have a hard time connecting what they're taught there to
Hmm.
your sort of sexier exercises that they want to be doing in the gym. So
Okay.
finding a coach that like really understands how to connect those dots for you is really
Hmm.
important. I also have a free resource actually on my
Oh,
profile
no.
right now that's
Okay.
specific to jumping and explosive exercise. So it's sort of
Okay.
5 things that people can try that would sort of be outside of pelvic floor physiotherapy and the stuff that we talked about. But
Okay.
really just having more people on your team. It's a complicated
Mm.
time. So just like a doula is an amazing resource to have during pregnancy and
Yeah.
labor delivery and postpartum. Finding the people that are going to guide you through to whatever end destination you want to end up at is
Yeah.
really.
Okay. So pelvic physiotherapist or pelvic therapist, depending on if you live in the US or Canada, we're also suggesting that you have like a fitness trainer and then also like some sort of health coach to help bridge those two things together and kind of make it holistic and make it make sense and attainable, right?
Yeah, I think support,
Okay.
the support is important and
Yeah.
finding somebody, even if it's not like someone you talk to every week, it might be someone that's at least giving you guidelines so that you can follow them and not have to sort of guess.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. I love that. Coaching for me is hands down like the most underrated tool of like adulthood. I absolutely love coaching. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. So I love that putting together your postpartum team just like you put together your birth team just to continue your physical and also nutritional health, wellness, and just make it so it's not so overwhelming. And then what other things, if anything, would you suggest for postpartum period?
I think it's just not, don't, there's no rush, right? We have one body. It's going to take
Yeah.
us through our entire life. The prenatal window is so short. The postpartum window, it can be as long as you're going to make it. If
Yeah.
body
So
and you take
true.
care of yourself, you do the things the right way. And admittedly, I didn't because I didn't know better at the time with my first pregnancy.
Yeah.
You can give yourself some grace and be okay with where
Yeah.
you're at right now.
Yeah.
It will come, and it doesn't have to be a rush, and it'll just take so much pressure off if you just allow
Yeah.
to exist in the moment that you're in and be postpartum. There's nothing wrong with having just had a I think
Yeah.
the biggest one is a lot of what happens in that window is really between the ears. Um,
Mm,
and giving
yeah.
yourself some grace.
Yeah, for sure. Did you want to add anything in particular about CrossFit? I know that you're really passionate about CrossFit, and that's something that you had some personal experience with as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's certainly an interesting time to be a CrossFit gym owner, but that's a whole other life. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think the biggest thing, it's not really necessarily about CrossFit, but just about sport. A lot of women who identify as athletes, it's a big part of who they are. It was for me, my identity was really wrapped up in not necessarily CrossFit, but in being an athlete and being physically capable and strong. And I
Okay.
think with a lot of women that have that, and it can feel postpartum like that part of you is never going to come back. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
come back. And I
Yeah.
think athlete brain can start to be really challenging for women. And, we talk about going from that 0 to 100 postpartum
Yeah.
the work. And I think regardless of whatever it is that you want to do, if it's CrossFit or walking or yoga or Pilates or whatever, it
Yeah.
is important to do the work and to just know that if you're not in a place that feels like you identify
Hmm.
as an athlete, you'll get there. It's just going to take some
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Any myths you want to debunk while we're at it?
Any myths? Ooh, that's a good question. I think there are a
Yeah.
lot. Like, I think in general, pre and postnatal fitness, it like really lives in these like polar. There are these like, you're either gonna get told don't work out at all, or just listen to your body.
Yeah.
But you do what you've always done. Your body will tell you. But that's really terrible advice if you don't know what to listen for,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And I think recognizing that you don't have to live in these extremes. It's not um, finding what the middle is and just educating yourself and living in the middle is really important. But the general advice is either don't do it at all or
Mhm.
just do it if you want. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to ask questions and advocate for yourself. To learn
Absolutely.
information, but I'm always happy to. I'm part of a network of people that do what I do. So if you're
Oh,
not looking for me online or you're not here in Canada, I'm always happy to connect anybody with
mhm.
that does similar work that I do.
Okay, and that's an awesome segue. So let's talk about how if people are interested in prenatal or postnatal fitness, or if they want to have conversations and kind of want to plan around like what to do, if they want to find out more about diastasis recti, like how can people get a hold of you like online? Where can people go?
Yeah, so Instagram's the best place, honestly. We're here. But I
Okay.
usually like to jump on a call with anybody that's interested just so I can get a sense of how I can help and to make sure that I'm the right resource for you.
Yeah.
Um, Usually we do like 15, 20 minutes just sort of chatting and seeing where I can support. But certainly I work with people one-on-one. I also have a group postpartum program that we're in the middle of a group right now. I'm going to have another group
Um,
starting on July 13th. So I haven't actually announced that yet. So here we go. There's just the announcement. It's a 12
no.
postpartum restorative exercise program. But yeah, I'm
Okay.
always happy to chat. I'm always happy to be a resource. If I'm not the right person for you, I'm happy to help you find the right person, the person that would be.
Okay.
But yeah, Instagram's the best place. I'm always happy to discuss. And if I'm
Okay.
not the right resource, as I said, wherever you're from, I can find you.
Okay, awesome. So Laura is available for anybody that wants to do virtual or in-person support. Again, she is located in Canada. She also has a brick and mortar gym. So definitely reach out to her. And then if it's something that you want to do personally with someone in your area, reach out anyway because she can make the connection. If you are interested in her 12-week restorative program for postpartum health and healing and physical wellness, definitely reach out to her. That's starting July the 13th, right? I got that date right?
You got it.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So then just hit her in the DM and definitely check out the link in her bio for some more of her free resources and also to book your consult with her to see how you guys can be helped by having her on your team. And is there anything else I forgot or left out?
Oh, you just nailed it. That was great.
Okay.
That was good.
Okay,
I
good.
That was fantastic. I loved it.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody so much for joining us. Matthew was saying great video, very informative. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I really, really appreciate you all. The expert series will continue. So I will continue to post when our next experts are coming on. Definitely DM me any of your questions, any information that you want to know. If you want a doula on your team, I am currently taking clients for the year 2020. So definitely message me so we can do a virtual coffee and see if you can see me on your birth team. And I will go ahead and close this one out. Laura, I just want to thank you so much for your time and your expertise. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you guys. Send us messages if you guys need anything, and I hope everyone has a fantastic day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.